Hi everyone, I'm Shane Stevenson, Director of Museum Collections and Curator here at the Buffalo Naval Park. And for today's video, we're on the third deck, and this is the third and not final part, but potentially of talking about the changes in the hangar space from 1947, 1949 to 1960 on USS Little Rock. Happy to have Lucas back from the far end of the state. So he's behind the camera, and we'll be doing a couple other videos. He'll be in front of the camera as well. So I did an overall general view using that USS Honolulu, a Brooklyn class cruiser. So the ones built right before the Clevelands. Then I went down to the second deck, and if you saw that, I did a real exhaustive video about the angled bulkhead, the watertight trunk, Bulkhead 126. We hope you check that out if you have not checked that out. And I could even link it down below. And now we're on the third deck, where they would have been standing. So looking at that USS Honolulu photograph, what we see, if you look off to your left, you will see that deck hatch. Now, if Lucas looks off to his right, you will see a deck hatch. Now, again, they're different classes, but this is the original deck hatch from 1945 that would have been in this wide open space that was the bottom of the hangar. So the elevator would come down. There was no second deck, right down to the third deck here. And there's a deck hatch here. What we don't have, though, is if you take a look, you're not obscured. So we have this stanchion that's here that is not there in 1947 through 1949. So this had to be an addition post 1960 when they reconfigured the space. But the deck hatch, you'll see if you can zoom in a little bit on the Honolulu photograph, that the hatch actually opens forward to aft. Well, we also have the USS Miami blueprint that's been so invaluable to both Lucas and myself. In addition to, we have a 1946 Miami plan. We have the 1947 Little Rock plan, but it's not digitized. So we actually have to unroll it and we look there. But on both of those, it shows this configuration. The ladders going from aft to forward, where in the Honolulu, and presumably all of the Brooklyns, they actually enter the stairs here and walk down aft. Now what we have down below is the crew's luggage. So there's small little compartments. It's actually like a half deck. You have to crouch down. There's dry provisions and dry stores, and the luggage that the crew would have, when they come on board and they embark, all of their luggage would be stored down here. Also looking on the blueprints, we see that there's another deck hatch just aft of here. So let's check that out. Now we have another hatch, which we've seen on the 1946 Miami blueprints as well. Now, this may have been a change, because if you look at the 1946 Miami plans, it actually looks like there's a ladder going forward to aft, the opposite of what we just saw. But now there actually is just a small, slight vertical ladder. And again, this is a half a deck. You can see it's not been preserved as much. But, you know, the crew comes down and checks for water incursions, things like that. Also, right near us is another part of the original 1947, at least, for the Little Rock, and that is this stanchion, this lovely stanchion. You can see it on the Miami plans. You can also see it on the blueprint that we have of the USS Little Rock. And it's not connected to bulkheads, right? So it's just here along with the hatch. It connects along a beam There it is right there, and it goes 12 feet this way or so. And there is another stanchion there, which is in the heart of the laundry space. And that is also shown on the blueprint for the Little Rock, Miami. So we've talked about the 2 deck hatches, the one that you can clearly see in the Honolulu, even though she's a Brooklyn. On the blueprint plans here, this stanchion, the stanchion that's now currently in the laundry. And finally, we are going to go back and talk about that angled bulkhead again. And we're going to show you now from the 3rd deck. We showed you on the 2nd deck, there's that watertight trunk, and it came off at an angle, which then became some berthing. Well, now we can actually see what it looks like in its current configuration. So let's check that out. So now we're just a little forward of where we were. And again, this watertight trunk continues down here, and we'll see this delineation. And this is the ending of the watertight trunk. Most of it's over just on the other side of this bulkhead, but you can hear the difference, right? So this is much more hollow than that. And this delineation mark is where that angled bulkhead would come from. Now we have a lot of vents. It cuts through. Again, none of this was here. Again, big wide open space. It would continue along this path. At an angle, and it comes to reach this stanchion here at frame 129. All right, 126 is right there. That's what we've discussed in the 2nd video, that it's the constant that we can see the very back of the hangar on the Honolulu photograph. And then after the configuration, this became the angle, which led to the watertight trunk, which then led over fully to starboard. So if you want, take a, look at how large this space is. All right, so this is where all the berthing would have been. All right, so there have the ability to fit in a lot of people into this space. And then you see the watertight trunk over there, that flat surface. And then, as we showed, leading out right to this stanchion here at frame 129. So this was original as well. And then Lucas and I have been talking about the overheads. So what Lucas believes is that anything, most anything forward from 129 is new overhead and new steel. Anything aft was the original, was part of the original configuration and the steel. And maybe right about here, you might be able to see there's a deck hatch right there that seems to be welded over. And then it kind of continues, and you can see maybe that weld mark right here, and it continues all the way through to the actual hull of the ship on the side. We've looked at the overall plan, we've looked at the 2nd deck, and now we've looked at the 2 hatches, the stanchions, where the angled bulkhead would have been, and we feel like we've confidently solved this archaeological question here of this whole space. It would be great to see an actual Cleveland alive. I know I'd probably feel like I did when I visited the kid. You're just kind of awestruck, and you're like, oh wow, I can't believe, you know, all of that fun stuff. Anyway, thank you so very much. I don't want to geek out too bad. Lucas doesn't want to geek out too bad either. So thank you very much for your support. Please give us a thumbs up. All right, that helps us spread the message and spread the word of the Buffalo Naval Park. Leave comments, questions. As you guys know, I answer 99.8% of all of our comments. And you know what? We'll see you again soon.